It's Misha Maria Buckley Whatton. I'm a storyteller and I'm originally from Liverpool. But you know what, this weekend I was thinking about Eddie Lenihan last time I was with him because people again were talking about the Pishogues. And there was a story he told last year to me that stuck in my head. And also, we've been talking a lot, like I went to a wonderful session where Tom, I think it was talking about the folklore and the other crowd. This is a little story that I found, which I'd like to share with you. It's about a woman called Nan. Her name was actually Anne, but everyone knew her as Nan, and she worked in the big house. Now, the big house, imagine Downton Abbey. And the people who'd built the house had cut down 12 hawthorn trees to build there. And the family were really wealthy. It was huge, as you can imagine. If I say to you, it was a little bit like Downton Abbey, and they had many servants for this household. But the family themselves had a great problem, and that was the couple just couldn't seem to have a child. They really wanted a son, and she just couldn't get pregnant. And it was a great heartache to them. And it took years. They married when they were in their early 20s, but she didn't have her first child till she was almost 40. So this was a much treasured child. And of course, you know what it's like, any of you here who've had children, what it's like when you have kids and like you first have your baby. She'd look forward to having this baby for years and years and years, but she was absolutely shattered. You know, walking up and down every night. We all know, don't we, what it's like with a baby in your arms, squawking and crying. But after 3 or 4 months, her husband started to say to her, you know, we've been invited to this ball, and she didn't want to go at first because she didn't want to leave the child, but she trusted Nan, one of the servants. She was an older woman, you see. And so her and her husband decided, I mean, it was difficult, she fretted about it, but she gave the baby, the little boy, to Nan to look after for that evening. So the lady of the house put on her fine gown and she and her husband left. And Nan was looking after the baby in their bedroom, because unusually for these very wealthy couples, they loved this child so much that they had the baby's cot in their own bedroom. So Nan was sitting on a rocking chair in the bedroom. The baby was fretting and she was singing it a little lullaby, and then there was a knock on the door, and it was one of the other servants, a more senior man, and he said, Nan, you're wanted downstairs. Now the thing was with this house, it was so vast that the servants' quarters were on both ends of the house. And what used to happen was, particularly if they had a bit of rest time, all the older servants would be down this end and all the younger servants down the other. Well, this older man said to her, Nan, you know, a group of travellers have come by, and there's some musicians with them. One of them's asking for you. He says he knows you and he'd really like to see you. Well, she was completely intrigued, but she had the baby, but she wanted to go down. I mean, he said, you know, the drink's on. So, but what could she do? So she said to him, I tell you what, go and fetch one of the young lasses from the other end. She was a 14-year-old girl he fetched up. She said, look, I'm just going to see who this man is, and then, you know, can you just look after the baby just for a short time? So this young, gawky girl said, yeah, no, don't be too long. So Nan goes down to the servants' quarters, and as she walks down the stone steps, there's a fog of smoke and a waft of fiddle, and there's people in there and there's laughter, and she spots this man across the room. Oh my goodness, he's handsome. Whoa, black curly hair, bright blue sparkling eyes, and he's smiling at Nan across the room. Someone puts a little glass of whiskey in her hand and she downs it straight away, even without thinking, and then someone else puts another. These people, she's never met them, none of them have. They've just arrived. And so this man's trying to get to her, and she keeps thinking, oh, I'll just hang on for a few more minutes. I'll just hang on for a few more minutes, because he's making his way across to her, and she's like, and she has another one. But just as she has her third little whiskey, she starts to hear the sound of crying above all of this jangle of music and chatter, and it's getting louder and louder, and it's a baby's cry. And she thinks to herself, oh my goodness, the baby, I'm going to have to go. And the man is almost there across to her. He's smiling at her, he's putting his hand out, but no, she thinks, I've got to go. And she's so torn because she really fancies him. But she goes off and she gets back to the bedroom. Sure enough, the young girl is gone, because apparently what happened was, down the other end of the house, a group of young people arrived with fiddles and booze, and the girl's gone off to enjoy the crack. Where's the baby? Where is the baby? Nan is now fretting because the baby's not in the cot, and she starts to frantically pull out the drawers, open the wardrobe. She can hear in her head the crying, and she looks around, and then she sees the great patterned rug just under the bed is slowly shifting beneath the bed. It's moving, and she sees a lump. It's the baby in its blanket, and it's being pulled under the bed. Well, she flies towards it, and it's being pulled down under the floorboards, and Nan literally grabs the baby just before he goes down and pulls him out. And she holds that baby all night, even when she's almost fallen asleep, like us lot tonight, shattered after everything we've done this weekend. Absolutely, like you said earlier, Marie, your eyes going. But she kept awake, and the couple, the wealthy couple, they didn't come back till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And Nan's still awake, and she hands the baby to the woman. The next morning, Nan fretted all night. She could hardly sleep, worrying about the baby. She was called by the lady of the house and sacked. She was sacked because she was accused of stealing, even though nothing had disappeared from the room. The lady of the house said, my clothes and drawers were ransacked. You went into my wardrobe. And Nan said, but, because she didn't want to say what had happened. And she said, but, no, you're sacked. And Nan was gone from that house. And not long after that, Nan's daughter married a fella from the Blasket Islands, and they asked their mother, Nan, to come with them. So that's a very long way away, isn't it? And she went, and when her daughter had a baby, she hardly ever put that baby down. But she always wondered if that child in that wealthy household was safe. Ooh. Wow.